What do you have in store for us today?
So again, we're talking about, how to add twisting to your balloon decor to, make it stand out because right now, there's a ton of decor artists out there. I mean, that's one thing that, you know, I found, especially during COVID, is there's a lot of people who were looking for a side hustle job, and then the market just got flooded, right, with all of these brand new decor artists. And that's both a good and can be a bad thing, right? That you have a bunch of people that are now flooding the market with decor, and it also drives the price down, right? Because supply and demand. The more people are providing a service, usually the
Yeah.
lower the prices for that service. So the trick is, how do you set yourself apart from everyone out there that's doing the same thing as you, even if not necessarily the same quality, right? And so I always try to figure out, like, how can I make my decor stand out? Like, I want, if someone sees a balloon arch or column or garland I made, I want them to be like, oh, Josh made that, like, without even knowing, right? And
Yeah.
so there are things you can do, because I'm primarily a twister. I'm not primarily a decorator. I've been a twister my whole life. But, I have started doing more and more decor. And as I start doing more and more decor, I always try and incorporate some twisting components. And my clients really, really appreciate that. And I've had several clients say that, man, we've gotten decor in the past, but this is on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want to do, is today just share some relatively simple things, because I think a lot of people, especially if they're just decorators and not twisters, adding twisting components can seem kind of scary and overwhelming. Like, I've talked to some decorators who are like, I wouldn't even know where to start when it comes to like twisting, and that seems so like
A foreign concept.
yeah, it seems like so difficult, right? So that's my goal today, is not to teach you all the most intricate, detailed possible things, but to just like teach you some basics that you can get started with, so you can know, like, hey, this is something I can do, and then you have a foundation to grow from.
Yes, definitely. I do
So
feel like, like you were saying, decorators nowadays, you have a niche of the decorators, but you can also, you're adding more value to your skills and to your designs by knowing the twisting techniques, which is amazing.
yeah, and I think, people have seen some amazing decor stuff out there, and that's like the one thing about social media and the online community being what it is that, when I was first starting out in twisting, like, people weren't seeing all the amazing things that were being created around the world, but now, like, people's expectations are going up, because now they're seeing examples of, wow, I didn't know that this was possible or this was possible. But it doesn't always have to be something over the top. So, like, I just want to start with something super simple. So, for example, we've all seen the beautiful, like, distortion flowers, right? Where it's like balloons inside of balloons, and to make this beautiful, like, distorted flower technique. But again, for someone who's just starting out, that can seem really overwhelming and seem
Yes.
kind of beyond their capability at the moment. What I want to encourage you is, it doesn't have to be some big, amazing, distorted flower with like balloons inside of other balloons. We can do amazing things with simple flowers. So what? If we just do a simple 6-petal flower, that's all we're going to do. So loop twist, we're just going to do 6. Just start off with a simple 6-petal flower. Okay? I want to show you how even this
You make it look
can,
so easy.
lots of practice. So to break it off, I just squeeze it so it's flat but wide. It's not about using nails or strength, brute force. It's just speed and technique is all it is. But there we have a simple, cute 1 balloon flower. So this is like something you make for like a kid's birthday party or like flower bracelet, right? So by itself, doesn't necessarily look that impressive, right? But if you have a bunch of these together inside a larger design, and you have like a beautiful balloon arch or column or garland or something that you've done, and you have a bunch of flowers all grouped together, that can be a little bit more impressive. So for example, if I take this one flower, which by itself, nothing.
Simple.
But if
Like
I
in
take
1 minute,
it
you done. Oh.
Oh my
and
God.
if I put that flower with 50 other flowers,
Oh my God.
all of
Love
a
it.
sudden, now this is something that's more impressive. So each individual thing by itself isn't anything that impressive. But when you group them together, it's the size and the volume that can make it impressive. So you can take simple things that you do, but just by changing the amount of them, so you could build a beautiful, arch for a wedding or for a birthday, but then if you take a flower thing like this, a giant flower bouquet, and attach that to the arch, all of a sudden you just dramatically change the entire look of that arch. And are going to impress a lot more people who are used to seeing arches, but they're not necessarily used to seeing arches with giant flower bouquets. And again, this doesn't have to take so long. To do all of these took me about an hour last night. Just my wife and I sat down. We were watching a TV show, and I just sat down while watching TV and just did this. It's 54, well, including the one I just added, 55 flowers, and it took me about an hour.
Wow.
Now again, I twist very fast.
In 1 hour?
1 hour.
Yeah. Because, you saw the one I just made. That takes less than a minute. So I was able to do all of these in about an hour. Now, again, for someone else, it might take long, but even then, it's not taking hours upon hours. But the value added to this, because then it does a couple things. You can do a couple things with this. Something like this, you can attach it to an existing decor piece, or you can have it as like a prop that people can hold. So now they're taking pictures in front of your balloon decor, holding this, then they kind of become part of that balloon decor. So then as people are taking pictures, they're more likely to share the photos because it's something that's like impressive and they, and so that's what you want. You want people sharing photos of your work. So by adding something like a large balloon bouquet, and this is just an example, but by adding something like this, you can either have it attached to the arch, or you can have it as something that's like freestanding that people stand next to, or you can have it where people can hold it. So then it creates like a photo booth moment that is more likely to get shared and more likely to bring you more business.
And Josh, usually for a bouquet or for that arrangement, how much would you charge for that?
So typically the way I view, and again, sometimes I will get hired just for like an anniversary or Valentine's Day. And that's the other thing by adding like simple twisted components like this, is that sometimes someone may not want to hire you for just an arch or column like for Valentine's Day or an anniversary. They may not feel like there's a need for like a decor piece. But something like this, I get asked to deliver a lot of these for anniversaries and Mother's Day and Valentine's Day and things like that. And so typically the way I do it is I just charge based on my time.
Okay.
So that's the best way I found of like adding pricing for twisting components onto decor is I think, okay, how long is it going to take me to make this? And then I charge them accordingly. So for me, again, it's going to be different per city and, per market. But for me, typically what I do is it's $150 per hour. So if I'm going to spend an hour on something, it's $150 plus possible delivery fee depending on if they're picking it up or I'm dropping it off or how far I'm having to drive to drop it off. Like there's different things. But my base would start for something like this. If someone ordered this, my base would start at $150.
Okay.
So if I was to add this to an arch,
it's not really dependent on like, let's say they're asking for something that requires more technique. You don't charge them by that. You just charge them like, obviously if it's a more difficult technique, it's going to take you longer. So
right. So for example, like another one is like you can have leaves like this, and I can show this in here, but this is just like a leaf weave. But this one is definitely gonna, like I just recently did a rainforest themed balloon arch for a church, and they're like, we want a really cool rainforest themed arch for our VBS, and I was like, I got you. I was like, now, I told them, I was like, now just so you know, I can do it, like, because before in the past, they've always just had like a standard arch. And I told them, like, now I can do just the standard arch like what we've done in the past at the same price we've done in the past. Or, if you want, because you're saying rainforest themed, I have some twisted components that would look really great. And if you trust me, I can add some really cool things to it that will really make that arch stand out. But it's going to cost more. I'm not going to be able to do it at the same price, right?
Okay.
And so they were like, okay, yeah. And, they trusted me. So I didn't even have to show them pictures. They're just like, yeah, we can do that. And so then I, added a bunch of these sticking out of, so you have, your balloon arch, but then I had a bunch of, these leaves sticking out of it. And then I had some other types of twists for some other types of weaves for some vines coming out of it. And then when I sent them the picture, they were like, wowza. they're like, you know, and again, we've done balloon arches for them in the past, but it's just, you know, showing them that when you get a balloon arch from me, it's not necessarily just going to be just something normal. Like, I want to stand out. I want that repeat business. Because if you're just doing standard balloon arches and, you know, not adding twisted components, the problem is there's so many people out there doing it and undercutting the market that what happens is eventually a lot of clients, they just want to go for whatever's the cheapest. They're like, well, if you're doing this and someone else is doing the same thing, but they're half the price, you know, there's a lot of companies that just want that best deal. But if you're adding things that either no one in your area can do or very few people in your area can do, then it's no longer about the price. Then it's about the quality, the presentation, the experience, right? And so that's one of the benefits, I think, of adding twisted components to balloon decor, is that it changes the whole conversation. It's no longer about what's the price, it's what's the impact, right? And so that's where you want to live as an artist and as a business owner, is you don't want your clients thinking about how much does something cost. You want their focus to be on, I want the best thing I can get, and that's you. That, like, you're the only one who's in my area who's going to be able to give me what I want.
That's very true.
And that's where adding twisting components can set you apart from a lot of companies that aren't doing it. Not because they can't, but they just don't.
True. Do you want to ask him?
Yes, here we have one question that is...
Go for it.
What's one twisted element that every balloon artist should learn because clients constantly love it?
Well, I mean, one thing that I would say, because you could add it to almost any theme decor. Like, this one is going to be pretty. Like, I love this technique, but it's pretty situational based, right? Like, if you're doing something that needs leaves or even feathers, you know, you can use this, but it's not necessarily going to be something that's an applicable technique for every decor design you do. But one thing that I think is super simple, but just, which color do I want to do for this? Something that's super simple, but that I think everyone can benefit from is just a simple spiral. But it's so fast, but it just adds so much. So just take the balloon, I pinch it between my index finger and my middle finger, and I'm going to wrap it around 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I do a little library presentation, a library show during the summer, so I tell kids, balloons are kind of like people, and sometimes they don't like change. And so when I put it around my finger, the balloon wants to stay this way. So then when I blow it up, I get this nice little spring, and it'll hold that shape. Now again, one of these by itself doesn't really add much value, okay? But just like I said with the flowers, one flower by itself, not very much. But when you have 50 of them together, all of a sudden it changes the whole look of the flower. It changes the whole look of your decor piece. So same thing, just a simple technique like this, just a simple spiral. But you have a bunch of these springs coming out of a decor piece. If it's something that's like plant, they look like you can make them, and you can even stretch them out, right? Or squish them out if you want them to look like vines. Or I've done things where, you know, people wanted like a candy themed or just a colorful neon themed balloon arch. But then you could just have a bunch of these just sticking out in random places, and it just adds that wow factor that, you know, everyone sees it and they're like, wow, look at all those things. You know, it just looks like there's a lot more going on, and it's a lot more technical, even though this is such a simple, easy technique to do. But it's something that the bang for your buck, so to speak, like the time it takes to add a bunch of these is very quick and simple, but the value added is undeniable for me. And I've had clients who have specifically been like, oh, make sure when you do our arch, make sure you do those swirly things again. I was like, I got you. Now I will say the one thing is it also depends on when doing twisted components, and this isn't just for these, but this is all twisted components, they do tend to deflate, twisted components deflate faster than round balloons, or at least more noticeably so, right? And so if it's, especially if it's like an outdoor decor piece, or it's It's something that they want to have up for a really long time. Like sometimes clients, they like want to keep the arch up for like more than a week, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes if that's the situation, then you're going to be kind of limited on which twisting components you want to add, because the twisting components will start deflating before the rounds do, or at least it becomes, they all start deflating at the same time, but it'll be more noticeable. With the twisted components. And so you might have a situation where, like, let me let some air out of this to show you. Like, so after like a couple days, right, all of a sudden these will start looking like this, right?
Okay.
And so for a day or two, it'll look fine, but then after a while, if they keep it up, you'll start seeing it. So even the rounds, when they shrink, you can't necessarily tell as easily, but with the twisting balloons, when they do start shrinking and losing air, it's more noticeable. So that is my thing that I tell people, like, when you're starting to add twisting components to your decor, just realize that it does change like the shelf life of your balloon decor, right?
Yeah.
It changes how long. So if it's for a party that day, you're golden. But if it's something that they're wanting to leave up for an extended period of time, then you may need to talk to your client either, and I've done both of these, either saying, look, I don't think the twisted aspects would be good for your decor because you're wanting it outside, or you're wanting it inside, but you're wanting it to look good for a month. Like, you know, the twisted components aren't going to work with that.
Yeah.
Or the other thing you can do, talking about adding value, is you can say, I can absolutely add all the twisted components you want. I get that you want this to be in your store. I get that you want this to be up for a couple weeks. But what we're going to have to do is every week, I'm going to have to come in and I'm going to have to refresh it, and that'll be an additional charge of whatever. And so I have done that too, where companies say, yes, we really want the added twisted components. We like the way that looks, and it's worth it to us to pay you to come in and refresh those twisted components. You know, every week or so. So you can do both that way.
And how many days takes the balloons turns like that?
Again, it all kind of depends on how much people are touching the balloons, or what's the temperature. The colder it is, the longer they last. The warmer it is. But I found usually
2, 3.
Like if you're doing something like this, it'll be, or the flowers, it'll be less noticeable, and these, I mean, can usually look good for about a week before you start noticing the shrinkage of the balloons. Mm-hmm. The swirlies, like the spring we just did, those ones, usually after about 3 days, you can start seeing it, you know. Those ones don't last long because there's nothing to hide the tail. So like when it starts letting out air, it becomes pretty obvious. So the springs look really great, but they do, after about 2 to 3 days, you can start seeing the aging of them more than other components.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
Next question.
Next question. Let's go. How can adding twist balloon elements instantly increase the perceived value of a design?
Yeah. Well, again, it all comes back to what I was saying earlier, was about supply and demand, right? People are willing to pay more for something that they know they can't get easily, right? If you know that something is super easy to get, you don't want to pay a lot for it because you want to shop around more, right? And so if there's a lot of artists in your area all offering the same type of balloons, all offering the same things, well, then like you have to price yourself according to your market, right? And you may have a hard time getting some of those premium prices on some decor if there's other people in your area offering the exact same thing for half the price.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're adding twisting components, the benefit of that is there's not nearly as many people that are adding twisting components into their decor as people who are just doing standard decor. And so when you start adding those twisting components, it puts you in a different category, right? Now you're not just a balloon decorator, you're a balloon decorator who does like so like you're in a different category, and so you have less competition. So therefore you can charge higher for your decor because you're like, well, you can't just go down the street and get this from, you know, someone for half the price because
put in details. Yes.
Right. So it's adding that. Wow. And so again, when people are doing, you also have to think like, what's the mindset of your customer, right? When people are wanting to add balloon decorations to whether it's a special event or a grand opening, or if it's just like a holiday themed, or if they're wanting to add it for a business or for a home, they're trying to stand out. Right, that's the reason you get balloon decor, is they want to enhance the mood of their event, or the mood of their store location, and they want to stand out. They want people to look at it and be like, wow. They want people to take pictures. They want those pictures to be shared, right? Well, the more unique and detailed and intricate your decor is, the more likely people are to be impressed, the more likely it is to be photographed, the more likely it is to be shared, and it's wins for you and for your customer when that happens.
And we have a little question here. If you use high float, how long will it last? Do you usually use high float?
I don't typically use high float for my twisting balloons.
Okay.
Because most of the time, the balloon decor I'm doing, it's not up long enough that it's really going to make that much of a difference.
Okay.
But also and again, this is just, everyone's got their own personal experiences. I had when I first started doing decor, again, I'm mainly a twister, but when I first started doing decor in 2018. I was doing some stuff with some high float, and it popped. And that high float, because again, you're putting the pressure on the twisting balloons, and that high float went everywhere, all over the walls. The client was not happy. Had to get that cleaned up. So, I mean, again, there's benefits to high float, but there's also potential risks. Or if you're pre-making a bunch of things like this, and then it pops in your car, and you get high float all over your car. So, for me, just because of the nature of the pressure that is on the balloons when they're twisting, and the amount of extra time it takes to put the high float in it, to then twist it. Like if I were to do this, but then put high float in each one of these balloons before I do it, like now instead of this taking me 5 minutes to do, with the high float, now it's going to take me 10 to 15 minutes to do, because I have to be a lot more careful with my twisting so it doesn't pop and doesn't splatter. I have to fill it. I have to make sure it's evenly distributed. And so then instead of just, 5 minutes to add this, now it's 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And so then you have to start looking at your ROI, your return on investment. Like, is the time I'm investing into this worth it? Because then you think, okay, so because I can charge a certain rate if I know that I can do these 5 minutes apiece. But if all of a sudden, instead of doing one of these in 5 minutes, I'm doing one of these in 15 minutes because I'm adding high flow to it, well, then that dramatically increases the cost to the client. And my personal experience has been, even the times that I have done the high float inside the twisting balloons, it doesn't, at least my personal experience has been, it doesn't work the same way as it does with the round balloons. Does it increase the longevity of the balloon? Absolutely. But not to the same degree, if that makes sense. Like, let's say, for example, if you were to say high float doubles the life of round balloons, I would say it only adds about a quarter to the life of the twisting. Like, it's definitely it's not going to extend the life of the twisting balloons to the same degree that it works for the round balloons, just because of the nature of the balloons. If that makes sense.
Yes.
At least that's been my personal experience.
Okay. Do you want to read one?
Sure.
Please.
Let's see. How do you price designs that include custom twisting?
Yeah. And again, that's a great question. I know pricing is always difficult for people. So when I do my decor, again, and it's pricing is going to be slightly different depending on your country, your region, your state you're living in, your city. Different things may affect the pricing. But so typically, I know most people do this when I'm charging for, whether it's a column, a garland, an arch, balloon decor. I typically charge per foot, right? It's X amount per foot. It's harder to do that when you're adding twisting components, because it's not the same, right? Yeah. So it's hard to charge. Okay, so I have 20 feet of balloon arch, but I have 5 feet of twisted, so that's why for me it just makes the most sense to just do based on time.
Yeah.
I just think, okay, so I know how long it takes me to make one of those leaves. Okay, you want 10 of those leaves? That's going to take me, let's say an hour and a half. Okay, I'm going to price accordingly, right? Or if I make this, I know I can do this in about an hour. I'm going to charge accordingly. And you can also, as you're pricing, there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be some ups and downs because ultimately the market will determine the value in any industry, right? So, for instance, I may say that for me, this is worth $150 added to a piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but if I have no one willing to pay that, well, then it's not really worth 150. Right?
Yeah.
Even if I think that it is, if I don't have a single customer who's willing to pay 150 for a giant balloon bouquet, well, then it's not really worth 150 because no one's willing to pay that. Right? But on the flip side, if everybody that I offer this to is like, oh yeah, no problem, then I might say like, well, wait, maybe you should up the price a little bit because again, that's the general rule, right? If you're not ever turning down any gigs, like if every single gig, if no one says that you're too expensive, then you're too cheap. Like that's just the general rule of thumb is that if you're turning down gigs, you need to be charging more. But so for me, what works best when adding twisting components is I just think of what's the time it's going to take for me to add that twisted component. And then I charge based on, I have like a set hourly rate. This is how much my time costs per hour. And that's how I charge. And I find that's fair for the customers. The customers understand. Then if they say, why is it that cost? Rather than saying, oh, that's just because of what I feel, I say, well, this is how much I charge per hour. This is going to take me an hour. There you go. Or this is how much I charge per hour. This is going to take me 3 hours. And so that's why it's, more expensive. So, and I find that I don't usually get much pushback on that as far as that being again, some customers aren't going to question your prices at all, but even the ones who do, I find that if I just say I charge based on the hour and this is how much time this is going to take, I don't have any customers really fight me on that.
I mean, I feel like it makes sense because like you said, like if it's in a more elaborate twist that you have to make, like you're not charging because of the technique, you're charging because it's essentially, since it's more elaborate, it is going to take you longer to do.
Right.
So you are charging like that extra
hours of your time.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
But I mean, you can very easily, by adding twisting components, you can double the cost of what you're getting paid for an arch without necessarily doubling the amount of time you're having to spend on that arch. It's up to you, but I mean, I found that I can very quickly turn a $500 balloon arch into a $1,000 balloon arch by adding some really unique twisting components to it.
That's
Yeah.
right, yes.
How do you, like, for example, somebody that's starting out, like obviously they're new, they're not moving as quickly, would you still recommend them to charge by their time? Even though, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's where again, it's kind of like that's where the market can determine, right? So, for instance, like I said, I can charge, like for this, I should be charged 150 because it takes me about an hour. Okay. Now, if I was a slower twister and this took me 2 hours, would I then charge 300 for it? That's where it's like, ooh, because then I don't know if the client's gonna go for that. But again, you could try. I mean, you could be like, this is going to take me 2 hours. I'm going to charge 300, and maybe your clients go for it. Maybe they don't. So I would also, it never hurts to ask other people in the area what they would charge or in different areas. So like
Okay.
I one of the things I love about the market that I'm in Houston, and the artists here, there's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of respect for one another, and I've lived all over the country, and so I know that's not necessarily the case in every single market. I've been in some markets that were, I'm not going to call anyone out, but I've been in some markets that were a little more cutthroat, and they viewed one another as competition more than like allies. But I'm very fortunate that in Houston, we view one another as friends and fellow collaborators, right? There's a lot of collaboration that happens in Houston. And so, I think it's very helpful to be able to reach out. Like if I got a request for, and this has happened multiple times, where I get a request for some really ridiculous, insane, large, whether it's a decor installation or like I've had people ask me for like large sculptures, like I want a life-size Michael Jordan or life-size Ursula from Little Mermaid, or all kinds of things. And sometimes I'm like, I wouldn't even know where to begin to price. So I'll call around some of my friends and I'll call DJ, I'll call Michael Creighton. I'll be like, hey, Michael, I got a question for you. I have a client, who's wanting this and explain the whole thing and say, I'm not really sure how to price that. This is kind of where I'm leaning over here. Is that how much you would charge? And sometimes we'll be like, yeah, that sounds about right. Or sometimes, I would charge double that. And I'm like, okay. Or I would charge, that sounds a little bit steep for what I would, And so I think that's helpful. And if you don't have anyone in your area that you can feel comfortable doing that with, because sometimes I know people can feel uneasy about sharing too much with like people who are, competitors in the area because they don't want to necessarily worry about someone stealing their client or something, or undercutting them on purpose. But then there's people online. There's online groups where you can, post and say, hey, I got a question. This is what the client's wanting. What would you charge? And be aware that on a lot of these online groups, sometimes people are crazy. I've seen not all advice is good advice, right? Don't just listen to everything you see just because it's on the internet. But no, because I've seen some people ask for advice, and I've seen people give them very good advice, and I've seen people give them off the wall advice that they should absolutely not follow. But I do think it is helpful to kind of get some feedback. And if you're struggling with pricing, a good thing to do is just ask people in your area or ask people in the online balloon community and say, hey, this is what I'm asking. Where are you guys pricing it? And you see what people say. But I mean, I think it's definitely helpful to have people that you can trust. And I mean, like I said, anyone's welcome to send me a message anytime. Be like, hey, I got this thing that I need to do an installation in Washington. How much would you charge for this? And I can at least do my part to try and help. I do that for people all the time. I do think it's helpful to just kind of, find out what people in your area are charging. If you know the people in your area well enough, I think that can be a huge benefit. And you guys can, collaborate on stuff together.
Yeah, and I do feel like the balloon community is really big and like helpful from what I've seen. Like whenever somebody posts, like everybody's so supportive and like they comment and like they just kind of like support each other. So, guys, if you need help figuring out your pricing, don't be afraid to talk to your fellow balloon community and, reach out to them. We were all there starting at one point. So, take advice, ask for help, don't be afraid. We all get there eventually. And I mean, you said you started back in 2018?
Started with decor. So I've been twisting since I was 9 years old. So I've been twisting for now almost 35 years.
Oh my God.
35 years of experience.
Yeah. So I've been doing this for 35 years, but decor I really only started doing when I moved to Houston from New York. So I was living in New York. I wasn't really doing much decor up there. Because, I didn't have, a van and, I'm not going to be carrying like a giant arch through the subway, so it wasn't practical. But like here in Houston, it's easier to just load stuff into a car and take it, but so I started really doing decor when I came to Houston, and, I started super simple, just, doing a couple things here and there. And then I've, gradually have grown it, and we have a lot of like repeat clients and a lot of corporate clients that we do. I've been very blessed to have some, really good corporate clients up here, and a lot of clients who trust me and trust my vision. And I can just be like, hey, well, and just to point out like the difference that twisting can make. So like there's this a chamber of commerce that we do every year, and we're not part of this chamber because it's a little bit farther away from us, this town. But they have a chamber of commerce every year, and they have this big event where what they do is all of the businesses that are part of their chamber of commerce, they come together and they have different themed booths. And there's like 50 businesses. And there's 50 businesses there that have different themed booths for their business, right? And everyone's trying to get the award, because they give an award at the end for the best booth for that business, right? And so we've done several for this one company there. We did like a Willy Wonka themed one. We did a Jungle Book themed one. They have always different, like one year might be themed movies, or one year might be kids cartoons or whatever, but they have a different theme that everyone needs to pick for. Yeah, pick booths. Oh, we did one that was a Texas themed one because they had a it was the state. So every different company had to pick a state, and they had to like decorate their booth to represent that state. So this company's hired us every year, and every single year we've done it, they've won first place and they won best booth. Yay. And here's the thing, we're not the only company there doing decor. Half the businesses there have balloon decor. Half of them don't have any balloon decor, they've, done stuff with cardboard and different mediums. But
Yeah.
I'd say of the 50 businesses there represented, half of them have balloon decorations. But again, it's a lot of stuff that people have seen before. But then when we do our decor and it's got twisted components like we did for the Jungle Book when we did, I had a monkey hanging down from a vine with bananas, and then we had, a big snake done, coming around, and then we had a bunch of like these leaves sticking out and a bunch of those swirly vines. You can see that from across the room and be like, wow, look at that one, and it just adds that extra wow. And again, it gets attention. Everyone's taking pictures, and so that's really what you want as an artist, is you want your work to stand out. You want it to, and for me, it also it allows me to give that personal artist touch. Whereas if I'm just, sometimes it can be easy to get overwhelmed and kind of just get into the motions of just like, okay, and just throwing an arch together, because I've done so many of them, right? That it can be easy to just kind of throw it together without a second's thought. But what I like about adding the twisted components is it forces me to kind of have to slow down, take a step back, and be like, okay, what's the composition of the piece? What would look better? And I find it's made me a better artist in all my twisting as well. Like the twisting helps my decor, and the decor helps my twisting. Like they feed off one another.
They go hand in hand, of course.
Yeah.
And do you have any courses that the community can take?
Yeah, so I mean, I do have, I'm working on some decor courses. I don't have any, I think one. I don't have a bunch right now, but I do have a Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/balloonjosh, I have several videos for free. So if you're interested in starting twisting,
cool.
That would be a great place. I have, I think, 30 videos that you can get for free on patreon.com/balloonjosh. And it has everything from, how to tie balloons, how to, inflate the balloons, how to make a simple balloon dog, simple balloon sword, all the way to like how to make Pikachu and Spider-Man, right? Wow. But simple stuff. And then if you want more advanced stuff, it's just $5 a month. And then I have everything from how to make Miss Rachel to a bald eagle to like one of the ones we recently did. See if I have it down here. It's kind of deflated, but we did a Statue of Liberty for 4th of July. But yeah, all different kinds of tutorials. For people, everything from fast designs that are like super simple and great for line work to very advanced, complicated, intricate designs. So we have all of that available depending on what people are looking for. And I'm in the process of putting together some more decor-oriented content on there as well as I expand our decor base.
Nice. What made you go into the decor world?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm still primarily a twister. I got some advice from Nate Culpepper in Austin, Nate the Great. But I was visiting with him one time, and he said, it's very difficult to do both evenly, right? True. You either have to be primarily a twister that does some decor, or primarily a decorator that does some twisting. It's very difficult to do both the same.
At the same, yeah.
Now, I'm not saying there's no one. I know like Darren Sari, and I know he does a pretty good job of. He seems to do a pretty good job of balancing both equally. That's just not my strength. For me, I don't personally enjoy the decor as much as I enjoy the twisting. The twisting, just because I'm a performer, right? So I like the attention. I like the having people there watching while I'm doing it, and I always get bummed out that like I make this amazing decor piece. I'm like, oh, people are gonna love this. I'm just not going to be there to see their reaction. Yeah. I want to see it. So for me, it just started because I would be doing twisting, and then people would be like, "Oh, could you do decor?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah. I mean, I haven't, but I could." I had people who were hiring me for twisting events who were wanted to start doing decor, and then especially during COVID, I had a lot more requests. I was getting a lot more decor requests than I was twisting requests.
Yeah, because you weren't like in person with people doing
right. So a lot more people were wanting decor or like large sculptures that they could like have in their front yard for like a drive. They were doing all those drive-by birthdays and stuff. So I had to kind of refocus and reshift. That COVID changed a lot for a lot of people. But that definitely had me focusing a little bit more on decor during that time. So even now, past that, now that the twisting gigs have picked back up, it's still nice to do decor. And but for me, I'm very selective because, again, I'm primarily a twister.
Yeah.
So, like, I have certain rules for my decor. Like, I don't ever do decor installations on the weekend because I'm booked solid with events. So I only do, like, decor installations on weekdays. And right now, I only do decor installations that are inside. Like, I just do what works for me, right?
Yeah.
And so everyone, I think, also needs to find what works for their business because and kind of pick and choose, right? Because there's some things that other people do that works great for them that I've tried. I'm like, oh, it doesn't really work for me, right?
Yeah.
So then I shift it or I adjust to make it so that it does. Like there's things that work for me that may not work for someone else because of either their market or their personality or different things. And so
Yeah.
I think everyone needs to figure out like what works for their business and their market. But at the end of the day, you have to do what you feel makes it worth it for you. And so what I like about the twisting is it allows me to add like a unique special component to make my decor stand out and make other people, because I mean, like for instance, I do a lot of kids' birthday parties, both twisting wise and decor wise, right? And at these parties, I'll do a lot of parties where I'm there twisting and they had someone else do the decor, right? And after a while, a lot of the decor kind of blends together, and I wouldn't be able to tell you which company did which decor.
Yeah.
But when I do a decor, my clients, like one of my clients, like literally called me a couple weeks ago and was like, "Hey, did you do balloon decorations for this party? In this neighborhood?" I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Yeah, we thought so because we were at that party." And as soon as we walked through the door, my daughter was like, "Balloon Josh did that."
That's
So like
amazing.
that's what you want. That's what you want
Yes,
as
that's
a balloon artist is that people, without even having to ask, they can look at something and be like, I know who made that because there's
Yeah.
only one person who did that. Because then when people start doing that more and more, that's when you get to the point as an artist and as a business owner where you can set your own prices.
Yeah.
You don't have to depend based on what the market's doing because they're like, they know that if they want this, they're coming to you because you're the only one who can do this, right? And so eventually, I know we love to all get to the point where, the distortion flowers and the big, huge things, but you don't have to start there. Some people want to, and that's also my encouragement to people is some people I think I've talked to a lot of people in the industry, both twisters and decorators. And I know there's a lot of decorators that I've talked to who said, oh, I've tried twisting in the past and it wasn't my thing. And I'm just not good at it, so that's why I don't do it. But then when I talk to them and be like, well, when you say you tried twisting, like, what do you mean by that, right? And they're like, oh, well, I was trying to do this, and they showed me a picture of this big distortion flower, right, with the balloon inside the balloon and layers and things and different weaving techniques. And they're like, and I just couldn't do it. I'm like, well, of course you couldn't do that. Like, you want to start out the gate with that's like me saying, like, oh, I want to become a face painter, and I'm going to start by doing, like, full face, beautiful, tight, and so what I want to tell people is, like, you don't have to jump straight to, like, the most complicated stuff. You can start with something simple, just like a simple flower, but just experiment with, like, different colors and adding volume and, different things. And just by doing a simple technique, but doing a lot of it, can have a really powerful effect on your decor. And then as you get more comfortable with the simple stuff, then you start adding the more complicated designs, more complicated techniques, different weaves, different distortion techniques, different, more advanced components. But you don't have to. A lot of people want to jump straight to that because that's what's getting all the attention. And I feel like a lot of times people don't see the value in doing like the basic. They're like, but if I'm just doing some basic flowers, that's not really going to add that much. Trust me, if you do it right, it can add so much value. And
it's about learning the techniques, getting comfortable with it, the repetition, and I feel like a lot of people, like you were saying, like they want to run before they know how to walk.
So I think it's important to just start with something, that's simple, but again, it can still elevate your art dramatically by adding it in an appropriate way.
Of course. Do we have any more questions? Did we ask them all?
We have one more, but it's pretty similar.
Go for it.
Okay. It says, what are some simple twisting techniques that make a big visual impact without adding hours of work?
Yeah. I mean, I know we basically kind of covered this already. I mean, for me, I would just say that those springs.
Us a little technique, a simple technique, maybe.
Well, I mean, I'll show you how I would do. So I'll do the springs, and then I can show you how I would start that leaf, because I think two of those are two of the most eye-catching things that you can do. So, for example, I'll show this again. But what you do for the springs, you're going to pinch it between our fingers, wrap it around. And again, what I like about this is how fast it is. And I know, and I just to show you the difference, I know that a lot of decorators and twisters that I met, they pre-inflate their balloons before blowing them up. I don't find that really adds very much. So that one was not pre-inflated. This one is. And I met people who swear that if you're going to do the spring, that the only way to do it is to pre-inflate it and then let the air out and re-inflate it because it makes it better. But I found that even if a twister can tell the difference, the general public cannot a lot of times tell the difference. A lot of times we're our own harshest critics. We're a lot more picky than our customers are a lot of times. Okay, so here's this one. Now, I can tell the difference. I'm going to try and make them as even as possible. Okay, but it's not a dramatic difference. So one of these was pre-inflated, one of these was not.
Is the one on the right the one pre-inflated?
No, this one.
That one?
That one.
This is the one that was pre-inflated. And really the only way you can tell is this one's slightly thicker. Like if you look at them up close, I'm trying to put them side by side, you can see that this one's slightly thicker because by pre-inflating it, you're stretching out the latex so that when you re-inflate it, it blows up thicker around. So the pre-inflated one is slightly thicker. But other than that, I mean, to be honest, if I mix them up, the average person's not going to tell. A twister may be able to tell, but your customers, they're not going to know whether it's pre-inflated. So my thing is, why spend all that time pre-inflating balloons just to re-inflate? Like that's just, again, talking about
time.
You know, bang for your buck and you're making the most of your time, right? If I have to pre-inflate all of my balloons before I turn them into spirals, that doubles the time of all of my thing, right? And so instead of doing, 50 of these in an hour, I'm now doing 30 in an hour, right? And so for me, I don't I don't pre-inflate my springs. I just do them off the cuff. But then what you can do is once you have your springs, and they can be the same color, they can be different colors. I'll usually take either an old balloon scrap is usually what I do. I'll take a balloon scrap of a neutral color or something that's a color that's in my arch. And then I just tie the ends together. And that's why I recommend saving your balloon scraps for things like this. But then what I do is just wrap it around the balloon arch, and then then they're sticking out of the arch in two different, and you can wrap it around and like tuck them in different places and have, your swirlies, your springs, you can have them hanging out at different parts, and that's super fast, super easy, and you can pre-make a bunch of these and then just show up with a bunch in your hand and just like wrap them around your core. And I mean, to install, it would take me, again, I could do probably about, just making these, so all you're doing is wrapping around your finger, blowing it up, wrapping around your finger. I could do easily 50 of these in an hour.
Wow.
And I feel like most people could, because again, all you're doing, it doesn't even take a minute, because you're wrapping around your finger, blowing it up, tying it, right? So you can crank out a ton of these without having to add in very much time.
Now
and then
I want to try it.
to put them on, again, tying them together, and then to put them on, you could put easily, 10 pairs of these, which if you did 10 pairs of these, that's 20. Right? So you have a standard 20-foot linear foot balloon arch, put 10 pairs of these, so you'd have 20 of these sticking out, and you just walk around, and you can put all of these on in two minutes.
That's so
right?
cute.
So it takes very little time to blow up, very little time to attach to an existing arch, and that's why I like this as a technique that I think just adds so much value for such a little amount of time put in. So as far as bang for your buck, I think this is the best simple technique that can add a big value to an existing arch. And what I also like about it is that it can go with pretty much any themed arch, whether it's something classy and elegant or whether it's something, you know, fun and whimsical. Like I've done this for weddings, proms, graduations, Sonic the Hedgehog themed parties, you know, like it doesn't have to fit within a certain theme because it's just fun, right? Just like balloons. Now, this would be one that is definitely more time consuming and more intricate and technical, but the wow factor on these, when you have a couple of these sticking out, whereas those, I would say you have to have, you know, you have to have a lot of those for an impact. So, for instance, if you just had a traditional arch and you had 5 of these just randomly sticking out, that doesn't really add much to it, right? That wouldn't add enough for the customer to think it's worth it, right? If you just added 5 random springs sticking out of a big arch, that's going to look like, what are those? They seem out of place. These work, but they work in volume. Just like I was saying, the flowers, if you just have like 1 or 2 flowers sticking out of a balloon arch, that's not adding anything. But when you have 50 flowers sticking out of balloon arches, either all in one clump like this or scattered throughout, then all of a sudden the value comes in the number. Now, what I like about this technique is that you don't need a ton of these because it's big and detailed by itself. If you have like, you could have like 4 of these or 5 of these sticking out of an arch, and that adds either spread out or you could have them like a fan, 5 of these together, but you have several of these connected. And what I like about this is even though this is a more detailed technique, it has a more visual impact, so you don't need as many of them to have that wow factor. So I can walk through this one right now because it's relatively quick once you learn it. So I like doing them. Typically, I do them all with one color, but for teaching purposes, it's easier to do it in different colors. So I'm going to show you with different colors right now. Okay. So we're going to do 4 different colors. Okay. So we'll do purple. We'll do blue. We'll do, what colors it can tell. We'll do green, and we'll do an orange in there. Okay. So we're going to do purple, blue, green, and orange for this leaf. And I'll show you the technique we can go about it.
Guys, if you have any question, let us know in the comments.
So I'm blowing all these up, leaving about a hand's width left uninflated.
Okay.
Gamer UK.
So here we go.
We're partners.
Can't believe you've been doing this since you were 9.
So here we go. So we're going to walk through this. So this one is different ways you can do this. The way we're going to do it requires 7 balloons.
Wow.
And you can do them all the same color, or you can do it in different colors. You can do them like different shades of the same color, so like different shades of green or whatnot. But you're going to blow all 7 up. Okay, with a hand's width left uninflated on each one. Now, what you're going to do is tie 2 of them together of each color. So normally I would do them different colors, but for teaching purposes, or same color, but for teaching purposes, it is much easier to follow what I'm doing if they're all different colors. So then we have our 2 greens, and we have our 1 orange. Okay, so 1 orange, and we have 2 greens tied together, 2 blues tied together, and 2 purples tied together. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create with the orange. We're going to do a loop around these 3. So you can see right here. See if I can hold that. So you have the 3 there, and they're not twisted together. They're just sitting there. Okay. I loop this around and twist it to itself. So this isn't twisted into those. Those are just inside that loop. Okay. And now what we're going to do. And this is a fun technique. It's really great for just adding some wow to your balloon decor. So what we're going to do is we start by bringing the bottom ones up. So we bring the bottom ones up in front of the other 2 colors and twist them together. Okay? And then we're going to take the orange, and we want to create a small bubble in the back. Okay? And we're going to twist that into those purples. So we have this.
Wow.
Now we're just going to continue to bring everything in. It always comes in front. So the green ones are the next ones. The green ones are going to come up like this, around the sides and in front. And then we twist those together. Okay, so the purple ones went in front. Now the green ones are going in front. And then we, just like before, we do a small bubble in the back with the orange. And we twist that into those green. Okay? Now the next one will be the blue ones. Right? So we keep following this pattern. The blue ones come around, and the blue ones come in front. And then we twist them together. And then we take, again, the orange, create a small bubble, and twist it together here. Okay?
Wow.
Then we're going to keep following the pattern. So you always start with the next lowest one. So now is the purple. And so it's always going to stay in that purple, green, blue, all the way up. And you're always going to make sure you take that center one, in this case, which is orange. But this is the exact same pattern I followed to do this. The only difference is this was all
Green.
the green. Okay? So this, now again, I bring the green forward, twist together, bring the orange, twist it into that, and bring the blue forward, twist together. So it's just always bringing the bottom one, bringing it around to the front. Okay? And then I make sure I twist that center one. The orange is just there to kind of stabilize and be that center, the center support, which you're not even really going to see it that much. And then the purple comes around. You want to make sure, especially when starting to do this technique, if you do the different rows different, like you can see how this, it would be very easy to get lost in the sauce, right?
Yeah.
It'd be very easy to forget, like, wait, which balloon goes where am I? But when you do them different colors, it's easier to see, okay, purple, green, blue, purple, green, blue, purple.
Yeah.
Okay, next ones I need to do are green, right?
Yeah.
So it's just always taking the ones from the back, stretching them around to the front, twisting them together, and then twisting in that center one. And so then you can just keep doing it around the back.
I don't know
twist
how
in
they
that
don't
center
pop.
And then pull around the back. Twist in the center one. And again, you can make these as short or as long as you want, right? So you can keep going, and if I like, okay, that's good enough length, then I can stop there. Or I can keep going, and eventually you will, of course, run out of balloon, right? I'll run out of balloon. But then when that happens, if you want to make it even longer, you can just keep adding more to it, right? You just keep adding more balloons to make it as long as you want. But then once you, like, let's say you get to this point and you're like, okay, I want to stop there, right?
Yeah.
But then what I do is I just bring everything to that same point, right? On the last row, I'll just bring every color up to that same point and twist them all together. And then you can start breaking them off. And then I would tie them together, and like for the one I just recently did, for the church that I added a bunch of these because they wanted rainforest theme, I tied them together the same way I did those little swirly balloons that we were talking about, where I just attached a 260 balloon scrap right to here, and I attached it to another one, and there you have your, now what I like about these is because of the way they are, you can leave them sticking up straight, or you can kind of do a little like an S-shaped curve, and you can curve them, and they look cool from the side, they look cool from the front, they look cool from the back. Like, this is just what I like about this technique, is it's so detailed, even though this was relatively quick to do.
Yeah.
But it just adds such a visual impact, such a wow statement, that I found that this is one of the components that, when added to a decor piece, has the biggest wow factor. I don't even have to have a lot of these. You could have, just an arch and then have 3 of these sticking out on one part of it, of the decor. And instantly, like, the focal point is, whoa, that's really cool. Because I love twisting techniques that look more complicated than they are. Right?
And it takes you 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, again, you can crank out a bunch of these really quick. Now, again, I have a lot of practice doing this, so I don't expect someone their first time out the gate for it to be this fast.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, I just learned this technique in February.
Oh, wow.
So it's not like I've been doing this for a long time. I've been twisting for a long time, but I just learned this from DJ at Twist and Shout in February. So yeah, so I haven't been doing this technique for very long. So, but I will say this is one of those that once I learned it, I'm like, I'm putting that on everything. Like when you find like a really good sauce you like, it just goes on all your food, right? That's it, right? Once I figured, I'm doing this on everything I can. Like even for kids' birthday parties, I did one the other week where it took me a while, but I had some time. It was one of those parties where there wasn't a lot of kids. I just made 8 of these, and I made a giant octopus, and it was the coolest looking thing.
Oh, that's so cute.
So that's another thing. For example, like you can use these as leaves or feathers, but you could also, let's say you're doing an underwater themed balloon decor.
It can be a tentacle.
You do 8 of these, and then just a big round, and then do some, and you have the coolest looking octopus that anyone's ever seen.
Yeah.
Or you could even do like a snake. You had make a really cool snake head and attach it to this. You'd have this if you wanted like a jungle themed balloon decor.
Yeah.
So I challenge people, like when you learn a new technique, a couple things. You have to put it into practice immediately. A lot of times what happens, whether it's a live stream like this or whether it's in person at a convention like Twist and Shout Florida Super Jam, where I've gotten to see you guys there, but whether it's online or virtual, a lot of times what happens, people will learn a new technique, they'll see a new technique, and they'll be like, that's cool, I'm going to do it, and then they don't. And then years go by, and they're like, oh, yeah, I learned that years ago. And, if you learn a new technique, if you learn something new today watching this, do it now.
Practice it.
Do it today. Try and incorporate it into the next piece you do, because the more you practice it right after learning it, the more likely you are to use that technique moving forward. So that's one piece of advice. But then also, when you learn a new technique, try to stretch your imagination and be like, okay, how many different things could I use this for? How many different things could this be? Like, I just thinking like, okay, I know I've seen like a lot of like birthday parties that are like, where they're talking like boss baby, and they're doing like this could be a gold chain, right? Do this out of gold, and you got like,
oh my God,
add this to like an arch, and you got like a gold chain component, right? So there's, all different ways of taking one technique that, was designed to be a leaf, but you can take that and it can become any number of different things just by using your imagination.
Totally.
I always like to say our imagination should be as flexible as our balloons.
Yes, I love that.
That's going to be the caption.
Yeah. Oh, Josh, well, thank you so much. Honestly, we learned so much from you. Thank you for all the tips, the tricks. I feel like everybody was able to learn so much. Guys, as he was mentioning, it takes time, practice, and a lot of creativity. So don't give up. Rely on your balloon community as well if you ever need help. If you need help, you guys can reach out to Josh as well. As you know, he'll be more than happy to help you guys. So thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Here we have one more question for for the people.
How do you create your catalog if it takes one day to do the design and take pictures? I don't get it.
Well, I mean, so I think I understand. So she's not like, how do you build, like if you're just starting out, how do you build like a catalog of stuff?
Yeah, like if it's only gonna be up for a day or
one
one
special day.
Yeah, so I think again, I don't know if this is quite answering your question, but this is how I'm interpreting it. This is what it sounds like to me. That what you're saying is, if you're just starting out and you don't have very many pictures of balloon decor for your website or for your portfolio, if you're trying to build that up, how do you like, you need the gigs, right?
Yeah.
To get the photos. So how do you get the gigs without the photos? I think is what it sounds like to me. So the way I kind of do it is, that's where like friends and family come in, right? Like for me personally, like if you're wanting to build your portfolio, build your resume, so to speak, and you want more pictures of work, start, even if it's for free, right? Just to build that up. Do balloons for your mom's birthday. Do balloons for your wife for Mother's Day. Do balloons for your kid's birthday party. Make some really cool balloon installations for family, friends, neighbors, and then take a bunch of pictures of it. And the cool thing about that is, like, if I'm doing something for my kid for his birthday, I can spend a week on it, right? I don't have to
Yeah.
build it in a day. I'm not constrained by time, so I can make it as elaborate as I want, and that's how I would personally go about building
For
your
yourself.
portfolio, building
Yeah.
your balloon resume, so to speak, is by start by doing families and friends is like say, hey, look, as my gift to you this year for your birthday, can I just make you some really insane balloon decorations to help you
Yeah.
celebrate, right? Or you have a friend who's getting married, say, hey, as my wedding present, I would love to just make you the most glorious, beautiful,
Yeah.
elegant, and classy balloon arch that you've ever seen. Is that something I could do? And then get photos.
Yeah.
And then also what you do is, especially one thing that I think a lot of people forget to do is so many events that I do, whether it's decor or twisting, so many events now have professional photographers there.
Yeah.
But the amount of artists that I know who don't think to ask their client, hey, I saw there was a professional photographer there. If they had any professional photos of my work, can you have them send that? Can you send those to me? Like, only once have I had a client be like, no, we don't want, like, and that was a celebrity. Usually, like, celebrities are going to be more, like, picky about, they don't want their house and photos being shared. But the average person, they're like, oh, yeah, absolutely. So some of the best photos of my work is stuff that a professional photographer that I didn't have to hire, that they hired for their event, professional photographers just trying to get good shots. They got some good photos of the decor. I asked the client for those photos. I can now use those. Like, so that's just something that I would recommend. Like, start by doing it for friends and family, right? And getting some good photos yourself. And then as you start doing more and more events, make sure that you ask, like, hey, is there going to be a professional photographer at your wedding, or is there going to be a professional photographer at this event? Especially if it's a big event like a wedding, they're going to have a professional photographer. So don't be afraid to ask the client, hey, if they have, is there any way I can get in touch with because maybe you don't want them to be in an awkward position. It's like, say, hey, can you give me the professional photographer's phone number? Because I'd like to ask them if they have any pictures of my work. I'd like to request that. But yeah, that's how I would build up my, if I was starting from scratch, that's what I would do, is that's how I build up my portfolio.
Thank you,
Definitely
Josh.
love that.
Yes.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you so
Thank you so much, Josh. Again, we
You're
had so much
amazing.
fun with you.
You guys are amazing.
No,
You
we
are
learned so
amazing.
much. Honestly, all your tips were amazing. I hope everybody learned. Be sure to join us next Wednesday for
With
Jammer
Gergo.
Creator, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you guys here. Thank you again, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.